Thank you for joining us for Small Talks for Big Change, where we help simplify financial topics to help with your financial wellness. Greetings, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to our last episode of Season 2 for the year, and we really did save the best for last. We've got a conversation today about setting financial boundaries, which is said to be a key skill in achieving financial success. And we're winding down the year, and while we're in the thick of the holiday season, it's a good time to just pause, reevaluate where we're at financially, and already start to think about the new year and setting ourselves up for a strong start.
Yes. That always makes me excited.
Let's do it, guys. And I have my favorite money people with us today, and you've probably seen them out in the community giving talks and classes, or maybe on our YouTube channel or on our TikTok feed. But friends, help me welcome the Veronica Dangerfield and Andrew Farrell, two of Patelco's educators extraordinaire. Hello, my people. Thank you so much for joining us.
Say more. Do say more.
We love picking your guys' brains about money, and I told you before the episode got started today that I admire you both so much for a lot of different reasons, but one of the most important, or one of the reasons I especially admire you, is both of your abilities, and you guys align perfectly about what it is you're going to do and what it is you will not do when it comes to money. And we're talking financial boundaries today. And I wanted to share with everyone because it's holiday spending time and we're thinking about the new year, so want to dive into that. But before we do, another thing we have in common, we love to sing.
We do.
As evidenced before the show.
We had a little concert before this. It was nice.
You know, I'm spontaneous behavior every day, all day, singing.
Well, you guys, we also love to eat.
We do.
We did get to eat this week. So quick around the room. Veronica, what's your favorite holiday treat?
I love Christmas cookies, especially the ones that come from other people that I can go around and solicit. And, I just have a cookie. I don't have a cookie budget.
The homemade variety? Any in particular?
The ones that have the nuts in them. I love chocolate chips and oatmeal because then I think I'm getting a little fiber
there you
with
go.
the oatmeal.
And they always taste better when someone else makes them also.
Absolutely.
It's like it's a free treat. It's nice.
Absolutely. For me, it's the Walker shortbread. I mean, there's a stick of butter in it, like each of the cookies, but the calories don't count in November and December, right? That's what they say.
No.
All right, Andrew, how about you?
Okay, so
Favorite
this is not
treat?
particularly a holiday treat, but I do make them normally around the holiday season when we have people over. It's a nice little appetizer. Bacon-wrapped dates with goat cheese. Has anyone had those before? So you know how I feel about cheese.
Yes.
You take a pitted date, you slice it, you stuff it with goat cheese, you take some bacon, wrap it around, bake it for about like 20 minutes or so, and they come out like crispy and gooey and sweet. It's a good, sweet, savory hybrid. Super easy to make, and they are always a crowd pleaser. So there's my tip for holiday eating.
Well,
It sounds like a lot of work.
Decadent.
It is. It's delicious.
Oh, my God. Am I old enough to have a treat like
You
that?
are.
I feel like you just offered to make us some for next year. We'll have to try them, but you have to make them. It sounds like a lot of work.
I'll do
Getting
so.
them, stuffing them, baking them, the whole thing. All right, guys, we're here to talk about financial health, not physical health today. And when we think about the 4 pillars of financial health, which are spend, borrow, save, and plan, today's topic of setting financial boundaries really can affect each of those areas. Veronica, let's start with you. We did an episode last year around holiday spending, and you shared one of your most favorite quotes, that is that you have to control what controls you.
Right.
When we talk about setting financial boundaries, are these the controls that you've always been talking about?
Absolutely. You know, my budget is my babe, and it is my financial North Star. So with the financial North Star, that, and again, remembering that my future self is really depending upon me to make good decisions so that I'll be happier next year. So, and sometimes I'm going to be uncomfortable with all of my boundaries, but that temporary uncomfortableness is overcome by a nice fat balance in my checkbook.
Once you see the results of it, you're like, oh, this isn't so bad.
Yeah, and that's empowering to feel like you have control, and that's the whole purpose of it.
Absolutely.
And then, Andrew, we just recorded a holiday spending podcast.
Which I loved, by the way.
Aw, stop.
So good. And we talked a lot about communication during the episode with friends and loved ones about boundaries, and more so around holiday gifts. But how do you begin to have a conversation like that? Because that can be an awkward one to have. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it, how I've had conversations, especially like with my mom, about how we're not going to do gifts. I think first and foremost, it's important to understand that most people are feeling the same way that you're feeling about holiday spending. If you're stressed, odds are a lot of people in your life are also stressed out about it. So for me, it's listening for cues, people saying things like, oh, I'm so stressed, or like the holidays are really breaking the bank, or whatever it is. That's kind of like your trigger to be like, hey, you're stressed, I'm stressed. Let's have a little chat about just not doing anything this year and alleviating the stress for ourselves. If you're still concerned that people aren't into like the idea of the mutual no gift giving, I think just above all else, it's important to remember that if that's your thing, then that's still good enough. Like, you cannot control other people's reactions to what your boundaries are. You can't control how they respond to what your boundaries are. All you can control is what you feel is right for yourself and how you communicate that. And you can communicate your boundaries in a way that I think is palatable or like easy for people to understand. For me, it's really big to explain the why behind my boundaries. So most people can relate to financial struggles. Don't be afraid to admit like, hey, it's tough times right now. I can't really be affording to be buying everybody in my life, everything under the sun. I had to communicate with people that I just wanted to downsize. Like, I didn't want a bunch of stuff in my life. If you're getting me things that I know you think it's because it's something I'd appreciate, but if I didn't ask for it and I didn't buy it for myself, then I probably don't really actually need it that bad. So just, communicating kind of what your lifestyle reasons are goes a very, very long way. If you are concerned about seeming dismissive about communicating like your financial boundaries, you don't want to seem like you are, telling the person that they're not important to you or celebrating the holidays isn't important, offer alternatives. We talked about time giving. You can offer, instead of doing gifts, let's, go out, let's have a potluck, let's set a low limit, and also express that like you still love this person, you still, want to experience the holidays with them. They are still important to you around this time of year, but you can just kind of express that appreciation around the holiday season without breaking the bank. And I think as long as you're transparent about that, most people are going to be receptive to it. And if they're not, again, not really your problem. It's your job to be yourself, know your boundaries, and then kind of surround yourself with people who are going to align with that or value that, as opposed to like, forcing yourself to be someone else for other people.
It's like a non-financial love letter.
Exactly.
And, consumerism is something that we all have to deal with. But it is outside pressures telling us what to do with our money.
For sure.
And as an independent woman, I resent that. You don't tell me what to do with my money.
Right.
Which is one of the pressures around the holidays where I've communicated with my family for years. I don't do the Christmas thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love to have you over, and if you want to come over and cook, because I don't cook. You know what I mean? We would love to do that, but focusing on love as the generator versus money. I love all your ideas.
Aww.
But I admire you so much because you're not afraid to initiate the conversation.
Yeah.
And Veronica, you travel so much, and you often travel with different partners every time. It's a neighbor, it's an old friend, it's a sister-in-law or whatever.
I will travel with anybody.
Do you initiate conversations before you take off about like what you guys are going to do and how much you're going to spend? And
I always have a budget ahead. Again, like I said, the budget is my babe, and I already pay for everything, and I know how much I'm going to spend before I go, and I don't buy souvenirs.
Yeah.
That's along with the Christmas thing. It's, why buy things from different countries to bring home to pollute our country with?
Right.
I in my later years, I'm very ecological about being sensitive to the environment and not making more trash.
yeah.
For my great grandchildren. So with the budget thing, and one of the things about being on holiday is the budget gets a lot lighter because this is the time for me to experience the world. So if I ever have a loose budget, it's when I travel.
Yeah.
But when I'm at home, I'm saving so that travel is full of quality.
But you have a lot of different travel partners, so do you guys align before you take off about what activities and excursions you're going to do and how much you're going to spend?
I've never had that problem ever. I travel with people that are similar
Okay.
to me in temperament
Yeah.
and also financially.
Yeah.
So
I think that goes back to like if you're just being yourself and putting yourself out there in your like truest authentic self and sense, people who are like-minded are going to gravitate towards you, and then you end up just kind of being on the same page.
yeah, and that's the thing too. If there's no way that I could show somebody how much I love them by spending.
Yeah.
There's no way. And I actually said that to my son. Is there any amount of money that I could spend to make you feel more loved? And when he said no, I said, we're not buying Christmas gifts this year because, it's not necessary. And, he's in college, so I'm forking out money anyway.
I also want to say, Michelle, we talked about in our last podcast how for our holiday department party this year, we were not doing gifts and we didn't do gifts. However, our big boss wrote everyone a really nice, very thoughtful handwritten note. I appreciated that more than any gift from any department gathering, little trinket, $25 limit that I've ever gotten.
Yeah.
And it was free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Veronica, your last webinar that you just did, the Thrifty Holidays one, you had a great acknowledgement at the end about getting uncomfortable. So acknowledging that it can be uncomfortable when we're talking about setting boundaries, but reminding us that it's temporary. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I actually remember having a conversation. It was during Christmas, and I had already said what I was going to do, and I did it. I think some of the family members didn't believe me, and they got me gifts, and I had nothing, and I had to sit in the uncomfortableness of having a boundary and then some of the times it being ignored. So I lived through that, but on New Year's Eve, on New Year's Day, when I got my first paycheck, it was not compromised by overspending, emotional spending, or unnecessary wasteful spending. So I had to do some deep breathing, and then and also because it's such an emotional response, I have to say, I didn't tear somebody's garden up. You know what I mean? I didn't eat somebody's food. I just did not spend my money on someone. And when I said that, it kind of calmed down my emotions because it wasn't that big of a deal. So I had to go through the uncomfortableness, but I knew at the end of the day, I was going to be a much happier and financially sound Veronica versus the grouchy one. Nobody wants to see her.
That gets easier over time, too. So the next day, it's like, okay, my bank account's higher than it might have been, but over time, that repetitive behavior gets easier.
And I think if you anticipate it, and understand that it's, everything in life is temporary and this too shall pass, and you actually live through it, it's kind of like a muscle. The next year, you're a little bit stronger and more confident about it. And just think, you're increasing the quality of your financial decisions and supporting the earth, So once you write all of those good things down, when you do feel bad, you can kind of feel it, release it, and let it go, let it go, let it go.
And I keep talking about going back to empowerment because you two are so confident about it. What would you say, Andrew, about this empowering feeling that getting over it, being uncomfortable, getting over it, and then that it just being your norm?
So for me, I mean, I feel like I come across a little heartless on these podcasts sometimes. I really don't care that much. I feel like there are people out there who genuinely enjoy getting other people gifts. So if you want to get me a gift because that's something that makes you happy, cool. I'll take your, whatever you think of for me. Usually I appreciate it, but I communicate with pretty much anybody in my life that I actually would care about their opinion of me, that's not something that I'm going to do. Or, we agree whatever we're going to do ahead of time and I stick to that. If you don't stick to that, if you go kind of take a detour and want to surprise me with something, that's cool. But I feel no obligation to do that back to you because, we've had that conversation. I can't anticipate what curveballs you threw for me. And I just kind of, move on from there. I also feel like I said earlier, and you yourself are somebody who enjoys giving gifts for people. I have an aunt who really likes to get gifts. I don't think that if you got me a gift because you wanted to give something to me and I didn't give you something back, that you would feel any type of way towards me.
Yeah.
So I just try not to burden myself with other people's thoughts or trying to kind of like obsess over how they're feeling or how they might be perceiving my gift giving habits, because I can't control it. I don't know what's actually going on in their head, and that's just the way it goes.
Absolutely cannot control other people's reactions or thoughts.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do is try your best to live your own genuine, authentic life. I feel like I am extremely loving and I'm extremely generous, but I'm not necessarily at Christmas.
Right.
You know what I mean?
On your own terms.
Yeah.
On my own terms, and just giving. Now, books, I'll give you a book.
That's their
Yeah.
splurge.
I love to give away books because I think it enhances people's well-being, and they've helped me out a lot.
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking about all the books, because I know each one of you, I have a book that you could use.
It'll sit on my shelf and collect dust. I'll take it, though. I'll take it.
You got me a travel book last year, Veronica, for our Christmas thing, and I went through it when I was going to my Europe trip this year. I was like going through, the Italy sections. It helped me determine what places like we wanted to hit. So I did really appreciate that book.
So, but the thing is that what we're talking about is, again, individuals and knowing what they need and want at the time, and even regifting, because I get a ton of travel books. Because why? Everybody knows I get on airplanes. You know what I mean? And regifting.
Yeah.
We were talking about that on the webinar
Ain't
that we
nothing
just had.
wrong with regifting.
I don't see nothing wrong.
No. As long as you're doing it intentionally, you have a surplus of something you're not going to use, someone else really would appreciate it, nothing wrong with
Nothing
regifting.
wrong.
We said we weren't going to sing, guys.
I never said we weren't going to sing.
All right.
I can't control myself.
NerdWallet has got some keys to setting financial boundaries on their website, and they read top 5. Number 1, define your limits. 2, prioritize your financial goals. 3, learn how to say no gracefully and provide context, which Andrew talked a little bit about earlier. Number 4, have a plan for lending money. I'm going to ask you more about this one, Veronica. And then I like this one. Number 5, rebranding yourself. Andrew, I'm going to ask you about that one. So, Veronica, number 4, around a plan for lending money. What do you advise people around lending money and regarding financial boundaries?
I don't believe in lending money. I find that in my life, it has destroyed relationships, and it just brings an imbalance in the relationship. So I give money away, no strings attached.
Yeah.
And I budget. Believe me, I have a budget for giving money away. I have an account because I'm very generous, and I was giving too much money away. So I had to actually set up an account that I could actually give money away. And I think it has been one of the most enriching experiences of my life because there's no strings attached, and the people that receive the money really need the money. So it has an impact. So if you can avoid it, don't lend money unless you can understand that if you don't get it back, that it won't destroy the relationships, because people are more important than money.
Yeah.
So
That's one of our credit union taglines. That was a good one.
I know.
That was a good
People are more important than money. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
A lot of times that happens with family and friends, the people closest to us that need that support. But I think this goes back to getting uncomfortable and having those conversations.
Because it's typically the same ones.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you don't know how to save money, because, what did they say? Teach a man to fish.
Yeah.
I can teach anybody how to save.
Yeah.
I got the system, because you need a system to be successful. And this is what we're talking about right now. We're talking about setting up a system during the holidays where you'll be successful. Setting your boundaries, knowing how much you want to spend or how much you don't want to spend. And then also bringing in creativity into the picture. There's so many ways to give.
And what would you say, Andrew, about anybody that was wanting to ask to borrow money? Would you refer them to Patelco's YouTube channel to watch our budgeting?
Yeah, I would say go to YouTube, type in Patelco Credit Union webinar, and look for our smart borrowing webinars. We've got a lot of good information out there.
Lending money is tough. There's a lot of cultural kind of standards around lending money too, but getting uncomfortable, setting your boundaries could be key in that arena. Andrew, what'd you like about NerdWallet's last suggestion there about rebranding yourself? That was my favorite.
That's a good one. So I really like the notion of rebranding because I think that it speaks to the idea that we as people are always growing and evolving and learning and adapting. And that's really kind of what rebranding is. Think about like what kind of person you were in high school, what kind of person you were in college. You both have children. Think about what kind of person you were before you had kids. Like your priorities were different. You know, who your interests, where you gave your time, your money, your energy was all different than what it is right now. And that's really just what a rebrand is. It's all part of the rebranding process. So when we put that in the context of holiday spending, it's funny, we talk about all this right now. There was a time in my life where I was a big gift giver. I call myself, like, I guess, a recovering gift giver. And it's
10-step program.
Right. It's the irony of that situation is that when I was giving the most gifts, or I guess putting the pressure on myself the most to give the most gifts, is when I was the most financially unstable.
Wow.
And I think it was like when I was in college and I kind of was feeling like, you know, I have people in my life, like I talked about before, who are big gift givers. So that was kind of my example that I had. Not because they felt pressured to get anything back. I just, you know, that's what I saw. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm an adult now. I have my own apartment. I'm out on my own. I'm independent. I need to like prove what an adult I am and show how grown I am by buying people like multiple gifts. That was what I guess I wanted my brand to be, was somebody who got like a lot of cool gifts for everybody and gave the best gifts. And it took me a while for it to kind of dawn on me, like, I am a college student, for God's sake. I'm not really a grown adult now. I'm paying for school. I'm working, you know, not my career job. I can't afford to be doing all of this. And the people in my life who I am getting these gifts for are not expecting me to get them these gifts. Sometimes they, you know, friends or whatever, feel the pressure then to mimic it back to me. And it's not a good situation for anybody involved. So I then kind of rebranded myself because I realized I was doing all this for no real reason that added any value to like anybody in my life.
Right.
So it was, you know, time for a rebrand. Down the line, maybe I will have kids. Maybe I'll be in a different financial situation and I might want to spoil my kids and might want to get more gifts. And that would be another rebrand, you know, at that point in my life when that comes. But that's not where I'm at right now. And I don't think that there's really any use for apologizing for where you are currently in your life. This
or
is where
maybe
I am.
your financial situation completely changes and you have the ability to do more, and that initiates a rebrand.
And Andrew talked about have the children. You know what I mean? So I have a few little nieces and nephews, and I will get them something because they're kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And their parents always could use a little help. So what we're talking about is being self-compassionate during the holiday season by making sure that your budget honors you and you honor everybody else by giving them the experience of love during the holiday. And it does not have to be a consumerism thing. There's so, like I said, the creativity is amazing. You can sit up and you can write a list because you know everybody. Personally, for you guys out there, just write me a letter.
Yep.
I have a box and it is my treasure. And whenever I feel bad, I go to my treasure chest and people have personally handwritten me notes, and I tell you, I am never happier.
Oh.
One tip for our listeners as we're getting through the holidays and thinking about the new year, if we're thinking about setting financial boundaries that's going to extend beyond the holidays, January 1st, maybe it's one of NerdWallet's tips, but what's one of your
Mine would be is I have to think about my future self all the time, because in 10 years from now, where do I want to be financially? And the steps that I have to take in order to get where I need to go, I have to consciously make them today. So I have my future self in the background yelling, "Girl, don't you be wasting my money." And I always think that's like my northern lights, my guiding star for my financial life. What about you, Andrew?
I want to echo what you're saying, that you do always need to think about like your future self and allocate whatever funds you need to for that. For me, I need to put pen to paper. Like I need to write down what my goals are, if they're short-term, long-term, whatever it is. I think for one, just getting it out of my head and onto a sheet of paper just helps it become a little bit more tangible. I then can see it all laid out. I can kind of get estimates for how much I need to allocate for all of these things and then kind of create my budget and build my budget around that. That also would help for holiday planning, because if you're laying it all out there January 1st and you're looking at the year, you would include, holiday spending if you need to allocate some funds for that. If you have any travel coming up, if you are looking to save for a down payment on a car, whatever your goals are that you want to tend to for your future self, and then it will just help you kind of visualize and help make it a little bit more tangible.
And let your budget be your boss.
There you go.
Budget. I feel like that might be the first webinar for January.
Yeah.
Let your budget be your boss.
I love
Stay
you guys
tuned.
so much. I love this positive influence about really hard and awkward and cringy conversations, but especially now during the holidays and then looking forward into the new year. We'll probably see the both of you on our webinar channel in January as we come out of the holidays, and we're continuing this conversation about financial health and financial talks. We want to do something special for our listeners as we close out the year. We haven't heard very much from you all, and we're hoping that this initiates some engagement with our listeners, but we want you to email us at webinars@patelco.org. We want to continue to fuel your financial health, and we want to pick a random winner of a $50 gift card to either Safeway or a grocer of your choice. So email us at webinars@patelco.org.
Ideas for future podcasts, thoughts, opinions,
thoughts.
things you liked, things you didn't like. Just send us your
Just
way.
say hi, and we want to celebrate you for the holidays.
This is the opportunity to get your voice heard and maybe even get a little money for Christmas.
Absolutely.
How about that?
Absolutely.
The gift that keeps on giving. Love, love, love.
We only sang once on this episode. Maybe we'll sing more in the new year. We want to wish everyone out there
Very
a happy holidays,
Yeah.
a prosperous new year. We will see you in January at our webinar near you. We're going to have Andrew and Veronica back on the podcast because we love your guys' inspiration.
Thank
you,
It's
Michelle.
great tips.
Thank
And you're
you.
awesome. You are
The
the hostess
best.
with the mostest.
Simply the best. Sorry, I had to get one more in.
One more in there. Well, happy holidays, everyone. That concludes today's episode of Small Talks for Big Change Season 2, where we help simplify financial topics to help with your financial wellness. Happy New Year, everyone. We'll see you next time.
We love you.
The Patelco Credit Union is insured by NCUA.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. To hear more, subscribe or follow our next video. See you next time.